Dragon Age the Veilguard was initially an extremely hyped game, but now that we've seen the identity politics and the way the developers have acted, a lot of that hype has gone down the drain, but now we're seeing the retail pre-orders are reportedly 3 times less than Star Wars Outlaws, which did abysmal, and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is a game that a lot of people are loving right now, and from what we understand, that is doing extremely good, but Star Wars Outlaws is a bit of a different beast because it's reported that it only sold 1 million copies in the first 3 weeks of launch, and that is not good when you compare it to other titles like Star Wars Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor that sold 15 million copies combined. And, well, Dragon Age the Veilguard was supposed to be a bit different. It was supposed to be a major release for Bioware. It was supposed to do awesome. And that doesn't seem that that's gonna happen because it says retail pre-orders for Bioware's upcoming Dragon Age the Veilguard, by the way, I still think Dreadwolf sounded significantly cooler, are reportedly 3 times less than what Spike Chunsoft's recently released Dragon Ball Sparking Zero were. So Stuttering Craig had posted, "My retail insider says physical copies are not better. Between both the gold and standard editions, in their 800 plus stores, they have just under 2,000 pre-orders between PlayStation 5 and Xbox." Now, of course, take this all with a grain of salt. We're just talking about alleged insider saying this, but Craig's sources are typically pretty accurate from what we understand. Whenever they basically say that they're not getting pre-orders, we don't think this game is going to sell very well, those games typically don't, and this all comes as a response to hearing about the Steam numbers so far. It's still outside of Steam's top 50 bestsellers list with just over 2 weeks until release. So on Steam, it's not doing particularly good. We're hearing the physical versions are also not selling, and I can't say that I'm particularly shocked because this game has been mired in controversy. Of course, one of the major reasons why a lot of people are not going to monetarily support this is identity politics. They made a character creator for mentally ill individuals, for the vocal minority of people. They decided to add top surgery scars as a toggle, which is ridiculous. Now, I, of course, am for more options for players. I always have been, I always will be, but they could have simply put it into a scar category instead of like putting it on display. But that's exactly what they did when the media was covering this game and their early impressions. They did mention the top surgery scar toggle and how inclusive it is. We know that they've been highlighting in like interviews and promotional material that there are not going to be any spiders in this game, which is crazy to think about for a fantasy title. But they said they did that because people are scared of spiders. So it's basically arachnophobia, inclusive, I suppose. I personally think that that's pretty freaking ridiculous, but we're just seeing them highlight how they are putting, politics first. They want this to be, unfortunately, marketed towards the kind of modern audience. And again, if they simply put this scar option into the scar category, they didn't highlight it. Same thing with like the spiders. It wouldn't particularly matter. I like seeing spiders in my game though. But on the flip side, that's not what they're doing. We also have seen people that have been affiliated with Dragon Age in the past, like a former Dragon Age lead writer, bashing critics, accusing Dragon Age the Veilguard of being woke and calling us effing tourists. Yes, we are the ones who are effing tourists, but we are also the ones that need to buy the game so you guys can continue to have jobs. It's just such a disgusting mentality within the industry. Instead of trying to support gamers and saying, we understand that not everyone's going to like these decisions and that's okay, they decide to constantly belittle us. And that is why their sales, from what we understand, are not doing particularly well. That is why you shouldn't be a freaking douchebag. Because when you attack customers, customers are not going to show up and monetarily support your products. When you highlight identity politics, people are not going to show up. Right now, we are in the middle of Gamergate 2. The culture war is well underway, and people are speaking with their wallets. If you decide to focus on identity politics over amazing storytelling, great character growth, amazing environments, then you're not going to be able to have a job going forward because you're not going to be able to make a sequel because the first game isn't going to sell well. And sure, this title hasn't released yet. It doesn't release for another 2 weeks. I will be streaming it at launch to give it a try because I do still play all of these games. If 100 of you are watching and only 1 copy is sold and 99 are saved, I'm sorry, that is a win. In my opinion, I want to cost them as many sales as possible if the game is bad. And hey, if you're watching it and you're seeing me react positively and it's amazing, that goes to show that you should buy it. But people are speaking with their wallets, and people are fine with boycotting a title that does not align with what they want in their video games. It's a very simple concept. And when you tell people if you don't like it, don't buy it, oh boy, people are definitely going to prove you right and say, you know what, you're correct. I shouldn't buy this. So for some comparison numbers, the insider shared that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero had a total of 5,952 total pre-orders on the Friday before the game released. And funny enough, when we compare it to something like Star Wars Outlaws, it also doesn't look particularly good for Dragon Age because Star Wars Outlaws apparently had 6,469 pre-orders, and that game only sold 1 million copies, which was abysmal for Ubisoft. So never mind when you look at Dragon Age the Veilguard's 2,000 versus Outlaws 6,000, and that game still did terribly. I mean, as far as we can see for Veilguard, this game's going to be a massive bomb. And of course, a retail insider who manages over 900 stores also shared with That Park Place that these numbers are 3 times less than what Spike Chunsoft's Dragon Ball Sparking Zero did in the lead up to its release on October 10th. Yes, we are hearing, apparently for the pre-order numbers, PlayStation 5 is 1,552, Xbox is 405, so the total is 1,957, which is abysmal, and I totally get that a large amount of games sold now are sold digitally. It's about 80% are sold digitally, but on the flip side, that's still 20% physical. I know I personally try to buy physical whenever I can, so you'd expect these to be a little bit higher. 2,000 is definitely extremely bad, especially for BioWare's next major release. So it just doesn't look like things are going super positively for Dragon Age the Veilguard right now. And I do think it is a mixture of things. I think it is the very poor gameplay snippets they've put online. They just don't look particularly amazing. I do also think a part of that is just the sections of the game they've decided to show off. We also know the identity politics certainly have harmed this game from what we are understanding, given so many people right now are paying attention to the culture war. So many people are boycotting titles when 1 or 2 things goes wrong with them. Totally understandable. And we also have seen over the years pre-orders significantly drop because gamers are no longer blindly pre-ordering and monetarily supporting games. They would rather wait for reviews to come out, for other gamers to talk about it, or their favorite content creators, whether that is in an article or on social medias like X or, of course, YouTube content creators. So I will be streaming this at the release to show you guys what the experience is all about, so you guys can judge whether or not it's worth your money. And hey, maybe it's going to be a cringe fest and we're all going to point and laugh at it together. But right now we're hearing retail pre-orders are apparently 3 times less than Star Wars Outlaws, which is a game that did bad, and even Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.